afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the book club. Now, some time ago, we read The Covenant of Water by Abraham Verghese. And it was, we read it at a time when the buzz was still on, and there was so much noise about it, so much appreciation, the award, and all this. And the general impression was, oh my, what a fabulous book. But it was not his first book. So today, Alka Joglekar is going to take us to Cutting for Stone, which is an earlier book of his, and which many people I have met, excuse me, actually consider his better work. So if you have read both of them, maybe you have compared them in your mind and have come to your conclusion. Or if you haven't, then listening to Alka today will help. So Alka, over to you. Now Alka is, by the way, a very, I call her a very good reader, which means she reads deeply, insightfully. That's what you want. So Alka, over to you.
Thanks, Mohini. I'll just share my screen.
Mm-hmm.
Mo ask everyone to
I
switch
have,
off.
they have muted.
Okay, I hope you guys can see my screen. So today we are talking about the book Cutting for Stone. But just as Mohini said, we cannot talk about that before we talk about, first we have to talk about Abraham Verghese and the fact that Oprah Winfrey has been fangirling him big time for the past few weeks, days. Okay. So, yeah. So, of course, she's been fangirling him for Covenant of Water. And she chose his latest book for her book club. It was the 101st selection of her book club. Said it was one of the top 3 books she's ever read, which is quite a big thing coming from Oprah. She had a 6-episode podcast of her interviewing him, and is now apparently optioned the film rights also. So about the book Covenant of Water, she has said it is one of the best books I've read in my entire life. It's epic. It's transportive. Many moments during the read, I had to stop and remember to breathe. I couldn't put the book down until the very last page. It was unput downable. That, of course, is a great accolade for anybody. But to come back to Abraham Verghese, before his fame as Oprah's buddy, he was and still is a regular doctor of Indian ethnicity who's practicing in the US. He started his medical studies in Ethiopia, but in 1974, he had to flee the country because of a Soviet-backed military junta overthrew the emperor. He completed medical studies in Madras Medical College, so we've got an India connection there. And then he moved to USA to start his medical practice. Now, in 1985, he was working in a small town in Tennessee, and he experienced the onslaught of AIDS, firsthand. This really affected him. And in fact, he said once, it's aware that he turned from being a homo ignorant person to someone who's more evolved. So this affected him a lot, and he decided to tell the story of this tragedy. But before starting on that, on his writing vocation, so to speak, he said, I must prepare myself for that, which I thought was a good thing because he didn't just pick up a pen and start writing. He first studied by completing a master in fine arts, which I thought was pretty good, right? And then his first book was My Own Country, a Doctor's Story, which was published in 1994, which is about his personal experiences with the AIDS patients that he worked with. What I just said in Tennessee, what he worked with. His second book was The Tennis Partner, which is a story of friendship and loss, again published in 1999, which is also a story from his life. He talks about a friend of his and also his tennis partner, who was a doctor who died of a drug addiction and drug overdose, and also about the breakdown of his first marriage. So the first 2 books were about his own life, so they're memoirs, right? But these were, as like the first interview he said in one of the interviews, he said that he got sidetracked by from writing fiction to these two things. He actually always wanted to write fiction, write a novel. He said, I got sidetracked by these two books, but then I came back again. And he finally wrote his third book, which is his first novel, which is Cutting for Stone in 2009. And his second blockbuster novel, of course, was Covenant of Water, which was in 2023. As an interesting aside, that with him being a practicing doctor at Stanford University Medical School, he joins the very illustrious group of doctors who are writers. And we have people like Somerset Maugham, Major Cronin, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, Khalid Hosseini, etc., etc. So it's a very, very select group. Now, very broadly, Verghese wanted to write a big epic novel about medicine. That was what he wanted to do. Right? So the story is about the book is a story about two identical twins, twin boys, Shiva and Marian, who are born to an Indian nun, whose sister Mary Joseph prays, and a British doctor, Thomas Stone, who are both working at a mission hospital. It's called Missing Hospital in Ethiopia. Their mother dies in childbirth, and their father, who has no idea at all about their existence or even about their impending arrival, just panics, has a meltdown, and disappears. They are brought up at the hospital by Dr. Ghosh and Dr. Hema, who are also working in the same hospital, and they become kind of their surrogate parents. The boys are connected to each other telepathically, and they behave as one single unit. So whenever someone says it's not Shiva or Marian, it's Shiva Marian. No, so it's always they're always together. So the twins have their childhood friend called Janet, who Marian has a very, very deep crush on, which develops into a very, very intense love, kind of a romantic and, it's called this kind of love. He says, I will only sleep. The first person I sleep with is going to be Janet, and we have to wait. And so it's a very romanticized love. Now, Janet is the reason also why Marian has a rift with Shiva, which is somewhat bridged when Ghosh, their surrogate father or adoptive father, is diagnosed with cancer. And the boys kind of rally around their mother to support her. Now, Marian becomes a doctor and he leaves for the US while Shiva stays on and helps Hema run the hospital after Ghosh dies. In the US, Marian meets his father, Thomas Stone, and starts a kind of a different kind of a relationship with him. Janet gets involved with some radical group and tries to kidnap. There's an airline thing where they try to take it up somewhere else, and she disappears from Ethiopia, but resurfaces in US years later, where she finally meets Marian. Now they're together for a few days, and so Marian is kind of now gets over her, which she hadn't been for so long. But Janet is a carrier of hepatitis B, and she kind of passes that on to Marian, who becomes very, very, very sick. So Hema and Shiva come to where he is. He's in Boston, and they meet Thomas Stone, who's also there. And Shiva convinces everybody to try out the very, very new live liver donation procedure, which incidentally Thomas Stone does do because he's a very foremost and very a great liver surgeon. So he tells them, I'll donate a part of my healthy liver to Marian. It's obviously because they're identical twins. It's all matching. So there's no question of it being, saying that being, what is it called? It's thrown out. That doesn't happen. So the operation is a success and Marian gets better, but Shiva dies because of a hemorrhage. But before he dies, Marian and Shiva kind of get together and become that one unit which they were earlier in their life. Marian goes back to Ethiopia with Hema to the hospital, and life comes a full circle for him. So this very short is the story. Now in the all his interviews, Verghese said that he had the title and the image of a nun in the throes of labor. These were his two starting points. He said, this is what I had and this is what I wanted to do. So the title, he liked the phrase cutting for stone because it was part of the Hippocratic Oath. And the background is that in earlier times, people used to have a lot of kidney stones, possibly because of bad water and other hygiene conditions. And what they used to really, it used to be very, very painful. And so what there used to be these tradespeople or practitioners who used to say that we can cut and get the stones out. So they used to cut maybe from the hip side or from the anal side and they used to get the stones out. And it was a very, very, you know, very unhygienic and not a very good thing at all. And they were practitioners who were very rough and ready, not medically trained. So the mortality was very high. So the Hippocratic Oath mentions this specifically that one should not cut for stone unless one is qualified. So this kind of resonated with Dr. Verghese is because he feels very strongly about medicine and what it can do and what it ought to do and also what it ought not to do. He thought the phrase had a certain ring to it, right? And of course, it also helped that the phrase was about cutting or surgery, which is what the book is about. It helped that almost all the characters in the book were surgeons. And of course, the main protagonist, their names were Stone. It's kind of a nice wordplay. He also wanted the title to be slightly mysterious. I mean, that he mentions that I don't want it to be very obvious. Right? It has to be mysterious, and the reader has to kind of figure out or interpret for themselves what they think the title means. But of course, I'm a very literal person. So for me, I kept looking for some reference to kidney stones, kidneys. I didn't get it. But that's the whole point. Now, Verghese had a very orthodox Indian Christian religious upbringing, and he had a fascination for nuns because the way he puts it, he said, he says they call attention to sexuality by the denial of sexuality. So, which I thought was a very interesting concept. She says that when a nun fails to keep her vows, right, it just shows her humanness. So we don't kind of look down upon her or we say, okay, fine, after all, she's human. And the fact that though we all aspire to achieve a goal, we don't always succeed. So that's what we get out of it. So while we admire the ones who do succeed, the ones who fail also send a powerful message saying that it is okay to aspire for greatness or for your goals, but it's also okay to fail because that's after all it's human. So he wanted to start as I said at the beginning, that he had the title and that image or that scene of a nun in labor. So he wanted to start the book with the scene of a nun in labor, so that it would be kind of a hook to grab the reader and take it forward. So he said, if I was looking at a book like that we started, I would want to know what is happening. So that's what he said. Now, this particular sculpture, the Ecstasy of Saint Teresa, is by renowned sculptor Gian Lorenzo Bernini, and it's a very powerful motif all through the book. In fact, apparently, it also features in Covenant of Water. That's what I think he says. But when he was writing Cutting for Stone, he hadn't actually seen the sculpture. He just seen prints of it, but not the actual one. So, this Saint Teresa was a Spanish Carmelite nun in the 16th century who advocated austerity and complete withdrawal from the world. And the sculpture is in a church at in Rome, and it shows Saint Teresa swooning in a state of religious ecstasy, while an angel holding a spear stands over her. Now, actually, I've given this small inset of the face of Saint Teresa because I think of course, it's a fantastic sculpture because I can imagine. Look at the expression. You can actually feel the religious ecstasy. I mean, you can feel the ecstasy. Now, it could be religious, it could be sexual, it is a bit of erotic thing. I mean, you can take it anything, but you can see the expressions, which I think is really fascinating. So, Sister Mary Joseph, I think she probably relates to Saint Teresa because she feels the same kind of love initially for God, and then I think to some extent for Thomas Stone. That's what I feel, which is why she kind of resonates. This is what she feels also, that deep connection. So she has a print of this sculpture in her room, and a letter to Stone, which she has written, is written at the back of the frame by Ghost. So there's a lot of this print is or this particular thing is a very important part. When Marion is a young boy, he imagines that this is his mother, who he has never seen, of course. And when he finally sees the sculpture, he kind of feels that yes, it is his mother and that she's talking to him. Now, the book has very powerful themes of abandonment, betrayal, and displacement or separation. Of course, the first thing, abandonment, is pretty obvious. Thomas Stone abandons his sons. And to understand that abandonment, we need to know about how Stone himself was abandoned by his father, who, though he was present in his life, was actually not there at all. He was like completely ignored Stone, and his mother was his complete universe. And he was also abandoned by his mother because first she fell sick and then she died. So when he was around 12. So he's got this sense of abandonment there. Then after that, Sister Mary Joseph, she abandoned him by dying again. So he left when she died, because at that time all he could think of is that the two people who he loved in his entire life, his mother and Sister Mary, they both had abandoned him. So that abandonment is a very painful, a very important theme. Now, betrayal is another one. Marian and Shiva, as we said, are kind of together. They're one unit. And but when Shiva sleeps with Janet, it is a very, very big betrayal for Marian, because he is kind of betrayed by the two people that he loves the most, his brother and Janet, who he has that connection with. So he does come to terms with this betrayal later on, but with both of them, but it comes at a great cost. With Janet, when he finally does manage to, get her out of her system, out of his system, he has hepatitis, so that's one. And of course, when he connects and comes back, comes together with Shiva, Shiva dies because he gives her the liver. Almost all the characters in this book are displaced from their origins. Uh, Sister Mary, Thomas Stone, Hema, Ghosh, they all are from India. Rosina's from Italy. The probationer is from Eritrea. The doctors in Boston are from India. Marion has to leave Ethiopia to go to US. So he's displaced from his birthplace. So there's geographical separation, but also emotional separation. Right at the very beginning, when Marion and Shiva are actually joined together in the womb, and then they are separated out. So that is the first separation that you see in the book. Now, Abraham Verghese is himself drawn to medicine very much. That's the reason he's a doctor. And he considers doctors as missionaries in the ministry of healing. So he considers that they do the work which is similar to a minister or similar to a priest to bring emotional succor to a patient. So he says medicine is not a science or an art, but a calling. He feels very strongly that the Samaritan function of a physician gets lost, sorry, in the science of medicine. He says that examination of a patient is a ritual, and that indicates the transformation in the patient and doctor relationship. Actually, one minute he said something very interesting, which I had never really considered. He said that the fact that a patient, a stranger, disrobes in front of a doctor and allows him to touch his body is one of the is the strongest, transformative powers and rituals. So you're giving permission for some stranger to touch your body. So that's how much trust you have, which is why I said that becomes a very important relationship. And this philosophy comes across very clearly in the book. So my nephews actually are working at the Stanford Medical Center, and I asked them about Dr. Verghese. So they said, yeah, he's of course very well known, very famous as a doctor and as a writer. And he also said he's one of the best internal medicine physicians in the department, and is especially adept at patient examination. So he's actually practicing what he is preaching. Now, when Dr. Thomas Stone was a student, he was asked a question by senior, which he then wrote about in the book, and he asked at the Morbidity and Mortality conference where Marion sees him for the first time, saying, what is the treatment in an emergency that is administered by year? I thought that the question was really very significant, and the answer is words of comfort. So you see, there's nothing to do with medicine, really, right? But that is what is required at that time. This is a very powerful idea, and it focuses how medicine should not only be about investigations and medications and reports and machines and computers, but a more holistic approach, which is giving the patient emotional support. This is something which Dr. Verghese believes very, very strongly in. And that is why in the book also, Marion also believes very strongly in that. Now, this is what I liked. Now, some things which I thought were maybe, not all that great. One is, of course, the book is too long. It's got 500 plus pages. It's very descriptive. So it's really tough going. It's verbose. I mean, it takes 25 pages to introduce Hema to us, another 25 to introduce Ghosh to us. And the actual birth of the twins goes on and on. There are too many characters, I feel. And I'm not sure some of them were really integral to the story. I'm not saying they should not have been there, but maybe we don't need their backstory. People who are not really integral, maybe a short backstory maybe could have been enough. There was too much of medicine. It was with detailed expressions of very gory surgeries and medical conditions. Now, I read a review where the one guy says that the many pages resemble an operating room manual, which to me was right. But of course, Verghese had said right at the very beginning that he wanted to write an epic novel about medicine. So I guess he did what he wanted. I found it a bit much. Now, this, I don't know, I may be being a bit uncharitable about this, but I feel that the author wanted to start off with that scene of a nun giving birth. It's kind of a gimmick. He wanted to start off with the things that, okay, what does it mean? I feel maybe he could have told the story. I don't know. Maybe it's a bit too gimmicky for me. But again, by his own admission, he has a fascination for nuns. So maybe that is what he wanted to do. I was not sure why do people behave they do, the way they do. Always I feel in any book, it should be the person who's behaving should be true to his character as the author has written. Now, if you look at this, Ghosh is hiding the letter from from Sister Mary to Stone. He's hiding it inside the frame of this ecstasy of Saint Teresa. Doesn't tell anybody about it. Just hides it there. Why does he not give it to Stone? I mean, to me, that would be very. See, if it was Hema who had found the letter and she would not have given it to Stone, I would understand because Hema was mad with him, right? And if I was Hema and in the same place, I would say, okay, let him stew in his guilt. I don't want him to, get his guilt reduced. So Hema would say, okay, fine, I'm not going to give it to him. But Ghosh was his friend. I mean, self-acknowledged. He said, I'm his friend. And he could easily find him. He could have. Why didn't he give it? That's one thing which I don't know. It doesn't gel with the character of uh, of Ghosh, right? Now, why did Janet allow self-mutilation just so she could stop Rosina telling Hema who she slept with? I don't understand. So nobody knew that she slept with someone except for Rosina. But even if they had, was it such a big thing that to get yourself agree to self mutilation and almost die? I just and Janet earlier on she was supposed to be a fiery kind of a person, right? She was standing up for her rights. She knew what she wanted. Why would someone do something like that? And the biggest one of all, why would Shiva sleep with Janet? Shiva knew how Marion felt about Janet. It was very, very clear. So even when Janet was asking him to sleep with her, surely he could have just said no. And if Marion, I think, felt more betrayed because it was Shiva who did it. If it had been some other man, which I'm sure would have been, because Janet was really dying to get on with it, and Marion was really not going anywhere. So maybe it would have been another man. It's probably Marion would not have been as betrayed, and he would have had Shiva to support him. So that I still don't understand why these things happen. There's just too many coincidences, I feel. I mean, Marion going to, I don't know how to pronounce it, Sige's restaurant in Boston and finding out about Janet being in the US. Then Stone just walking into the OR where Marion is. Marion finding the letter from Sister Mary after so many years. All these coincidences and all these coincident beatings, all these points are very important milestones of the story. So, which is why, I mean, is it that the plot is depending on coincidences? I mean, is it the plotting sketchy, so he wants to plug it in with these coincidences? I don't know. I mean, the last one probably is something which, me being me, I find it very irritating. Is why the hell can't people just talk straight and tell people what they think of, about everything? So if Sister Mary or Thomas Stone had just said what they wanted to say instead of sitting and moping around for 7 years, well, we wouldn't have had a book for sure, but they would have. There would not have been so much of drama and tragedy also. So that's my take on cutting for soul, and we can start with the discussions.
Oh, so wow, Alka, you really trimmed it? Such a long
I have a
novel.
rule. I have a rule to myself. I don't go more than half an hour in the presentation, because then you have time for discussion. Otherwise, you don't get time.
True, true, true. What you said about these coincidences, I felt that very much in The Covenant of Water
Mhm.
also.
Mm.
I mean, the contrivedness, of it.
Yeah, I thought that
And
too.
like, what's a big mamachi? I forget what she's called. And that girl dying on the same night. I mean, so convenient. Others, what would he have done with that girl, thereafter? Now, okay. So you said that you couldn't fathom why Janet would surrender to self-mutilation.
Yeah.
When I read the book, I thought she was punishing herself. I thought this was her form, her guilt at having slept with
No, but she
this.
was not guilty at all. She was wanting to do it for a very long time. It was Marion who was
Yeah,
saying no.
no,
Yeah.
but did she not know that the brother loved her? I mean,
Yeah,
did she
yeah,
not?
of course. She knew.
She knew. She
She
knew.
knew.
So I sort of thought that. Now it is some time since I read the novel, and I don't have a great memory. So, but I remember thinking that guilt, self punishment, these things kind of hovered over that scene. Huh. And the nun giving birth business that you said. Now you use the word gimmick. Can I use the term shock value?
Yeah. A more
Shock
kinder term.
value. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Does this man love shock value? Even in the Covenant of Water, again and again, shock value. And what could be more shocking than a nurse?
None.
Sorry, a nun who
Yeah.
is supposed to be celibate giving birth? Oh my God. So, yeah, I think he is looking for shock value all the time. Yes, come on, folks. Let's have everyone pipe in. I have to congratulate you, Alka, on being able to trim it down. My goodness.
I
Yeah,
just gave the bare bones of the story.
absolute bare bones it
I
is
wish
indeed.
he had done that too. I thought
Yeah,
it was 300 pages too long. Uh,
verbose, yes.
I
Too
agree.
much, too much. And like towards the end, I thought it was like a Bollywood movie kind of with the, what you guys said, the shock value and the coincidences. And of course, it had the quintessential twins there to add to the Bollywood value. Um, no, I didn't. I mean, overall, I was like really just wanting to get through the book after the first half. I didn't care for his writing. Um, it felt like he was writing to impress rather than there
Yeah.
wasn't a flow to it. Um, I mean,
Hmm.
just to put
Okay.
words that a common man may probably have to look up a dictionary, but it didn't flow. It didn't flow for me.
I would say the Covenant of Water flowed more,
Okay,
was
I
more uh,
haven't read it, and
And that is
I'm
also a
very
long book, right?
uninspired.
also
Very,
very
it's thicker
long.
than this.
Oh my.
Also
It's
need
longer
he
than this.
he needed a very stern editor, you know.
Absolutely, you're so right about that. You're so right. I wonder what the editor was doing and thinking.
No,
Now,
but that's why he says he took 9 years for Cutting for Stone. He took 14 years for Covenant of Water, because A, he was working on. He said, "Okay, I only write on weekends." So, which is why it takes longer, which is understandable. But of course, he's writing
of
huge
course.
volumes, which also takes longer. That's another thing.
Yeah, but like you said, a lot of it was like the whole backstory of that. Who was that doctor in Boston? Or no,
BC
in
Gandhi. BC Gandhi.
right.
Gandhi?
His mentor who
Yeah,
teaches
yeah,
him at
yeah.
that
Deepak.
US
Deepak or somebody. Yeah,
Deepak,
Deepak.
Deepak,
Deepak. Yeah,
like
yeah.
totally unnecessary. He had no role to play besides just being a mentor, and but we went into such depths about his marriage, and I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just like unnecessary.
Unnecessary detail. I think what he's trying for is sort of, an epic novel,
But
something
that's
very
exactly what he said.
grand.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. He wanted that.
Wide canvas,
Yeah.
lots of characters, shock value, unbelievable things happening, large scale, the scale of magnificence.
But that
So
not everything
that's
can be gone with the wind, right?
Yeah, true that.
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
that's the thing.
But
But yeah,
now,
I-
uh,
yeah,
him, he as a doctor and a writer. Now, these guys who have been doctors and writers, I absolutely applaud. Where on earth do they find the time?
Yeah,
And right now,
that's
there's Atul Gawande. Now,
yeah.
until I came across Abraham Verghese, I was so admiring of Atul Gawande. I mean, the guy, when he started writing, he was a registrar, okay?
Yeah.
Which is the busiest time of a doctor's career. Everything is, foisted on the register. He was married, he had children, and he has 4 children. And the amount he writes in the New Yorker, he writes for the New York Times regularly. I mean, he's a regular contributor. And plus all these books. And Atul Gawande, I mean, maybe I am wasting time talking about him, but considering that he has such a busy career and considering that he has been such a prominent person in the field of medicine, that reforms introduced by him have been adopted worldwide, you know, and that's huge. That is really huge. But the style that he writes in is so slow and patient. I mean, at times, I felt initially, oh, good, because, we are not medical people, we don't know. And he doesn't write fiction, he writes about the world
Yeah.
of medicine. I said, oh, good. But after a while, I felt like saying, hey, guy, get on, because we
No,
have understood,
yes, even
So,
that checklist manifesto of his,
yes,
repetitive. We got it in the first 3 chapters. We get it.
I
He
know.
just
And
repeats the same thing.
so it's
Yeah,
so strange that his style should be so contradictory to the life that he must be
yeah.
leading. Hmm?
true.
Well, and here is another guy, this Abraham Verghese. Sheena, you have met him. So I think
Sheena's gone.
She
Sheena's gone.
Sheena's
he's gone
left.
already. Oh
Yeah,
gosh, oh no. Because
she
I
would have been
wanted to,
quite upset if she had stayed. I think so. Probably that's why.
but I
She's
wanted
another
to hear,
fangirl of Abraham Verghese.
yeah, but oh, well, anyway, it is not to be. What a pity. I thought
Yeah,
here she could tell us what she thought of him.
yeah. I know. We would have liked
Her
to.
sort of her take on the
Yeah,
guy. She actually met him.
Yeah, for
Huh.
somebody who likes the novel, to hear from them would have been
yeah.
interesting.
Okay, yes. So come on then, Kaveri, have you read it?
No, and you know what? I joined late today. So but I
I
got in, I was so interested in getting in, I got stuck somewhere. By the time I could join, it was around 5:20, 5:25. So I came in very late. But I wanted very much to hear about this one. So no, I'm afraid I haven't read it. But I like the way Alka is sort of so concisely from the
know.
point that I came in. So she covered all the issues and what she found were the drawbacks, and she came out so clearly in that. That was amazing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So no, I'm afraid I haven't read it, but I was extremely interested in hearing about
I
it.
wonder now, I wonder if you will feel like reading,
No, I don't
after
think
this
after
discussion.
hearing this, I won't feel like reading it. But it was worth hearing about it. You know what? He came to the Kolkata Literary Festival and we heard him speak. He's very eloquent.
Yeah.
He speaks really beautifully. And he was answering the questions, the person with whom he was interacting, he was answering questions very well.
Mm.
And from that point of view, he comes across as someone who you would imagine would be gifted as far as
Yeah.
writing is, because the command over language
No,
is
his
so.
command over language is very good. And in fact,
But
one of the things which I really liked is he talked about Ethiopia, which I had
yeah,
no clue about.
Yeah, I was about
That
to
was
say
some,
that.
yeah. So that was really nice. I mean, the parts, so I got to know a little bit about, and when he talked about the parts of the music, I actually listened to that music and the
Yes,
songs. Those are really
Tisita.
nice. So, that part is good. So it kind of, he makes you want to do some bit more research, which I always like. I mean, if someone says it's nice, but that part is good, but I think he just stretched it too far. So
I
I think,
guess I could get what you meant over there.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think a little overconfidence about his writing abilities.
But it's worked. I mean, it's 4.7 on Google and
And
Goodreads.
it was on New
And
York
yeah,
bestseller list for 2 years, apparently.
yeah. So
It was on
And
in fact, I went
Obama's.
through the I
Yeah,
went through the reviews just to see like,
yeah.
does anybody feel the way I'm feeling right now reading this book? And they're in a minority, though they are precisely the same
Yeah.
points that we are talking about, but not many people. Most people are like in love with the book. So whatever his gimmick was is definitely worked.
what
Not
about the
really, not really. When I
Excuse me,
first
sorry.
picked up this book, I thought it was something to do with diamond mining or diamond merchants or something.
from the title?
Oh,
Title.
So
cutting the
this
stone.
was about
Oh,
4 years
Quarrying,
back.
like in a
4
quarry.
years back.
Yeah,
And
I
anyway, I
can't
got
blame
to
you.
read the book and I didn't like it at all, frankly.
Join, join the
It,
club.
it was interesting. I read it right till the end, no doubt.
yeah.
But I wasn't quite satisfied with that business of the twins and, all this betrayal and abandonment. It seemed very dismal and gloomy, and somehow it didn't have any point to which I could attach myself.
You couldn't relate.
Mhm.
I
Any kind of, something to grip your attention. Okay, maybe not attention only, but your whole idea of what a story should be.
Mhm.
I didn't like it, but yes, Alka's um, telling us about it brought it all back to my mind that I didn't quite like the book then, and but she has described it pretty well.
Uma, why can't we see you?
Oh, you can't see me, okay?
Oh, switch on your
Hi.
video.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
better. That's better. Asha, by the way, may I offer the word melodramatic?
Hmm.
About the book.
Definitely melodramatic in this novel.
Mhm.
Melodrama and pretty, I don't know, the whole thing I found very abstract, not too true to life.
Yeah, exactly. If
I,
you're painting a character in a certain way, then his actions should also be true to that character that you're
Consistent.
painting.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, yeah, consistent, exactly. So you may not agree with that action because you are not that character, but the character should be consistent.
Yeah.
yes,
That I found, I didn't find that at all. Some of the guy I was when I was reading, I said, why the hell is this happening? You know, which was very odd.
yes. That about meeting the father later after
Yeah,
so many years,
yeah,
that
yeah.
was real melodrama. It's something like finding your lost son
Total
or something
Hindi,
in
Bollywood.
Kumbh Mela after
Yeah,
his
yeah, yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. Total Bollywood.
yes.
Total Bollywood, yeah. And again, if he really wanted to find his father, he could have easily done so because he was in the US for 6 years or 7 years, whatever. He could have done that. He went to that mortality conference and things like that. I mean, I again, fact of his going to his apartment and just
Did he
rearranging
find him
things.
by chance or did he look for him?
No,
I
he met
don't
him by
know.
chance. He met him
Met
by
him
chance.
by
See,
chance.
he could
Okay.
have looked for him if he
In the
wanted to.
OT. Yeah.
He just happened to walk in, and that was very. If you remember, what he said was that his the guy, the Deepak, who was doing the surgery, he started. This is my resident, and that Thomas Stone stopped in the middle. So if he had said the name, Thomas Stone would have recognized it, obviously. So he stopped in the
Yeah.
middle. And then Thomas Stone says
And
that
even
I
for,
am, even, and Deepak says, I know who you are. So even
yeah.
his name is not announced right there. So all these things,
And
it's
for
all
Yeah.
Deepak not to
Because the book
register that
says
this is a
father's
stone and this is a
reaction to his
stone.
son.
again. Yeah. Of course, he may
I
even
forget
praise
this.
Stone. He may even praise Stone. So maybe that is the thing. But
Yeah. Yeah.
again, the other thing which I found a bit odd, I mean, there is that this Shiva doing all these great things in the hospital. He's not a doctor, so
Doctor.
is this
Yes.
legal? Not legal? What is happening out there? So it's a bit odd. I thought he obviously couldn't have be doing the surgeries. That
No.
is definitely should
No,
not have been
one
a.
of the threads I was checking, it said was Shiva autistic.
Yeah,
And
Oh,
I
yeah,
yes,
tried to look
yes.
at the character from that lens, but it still didn't add up.
no,
Because there were times when you said, okay, you could fit him into that frame, but then there are things that just didn't,
just don't. In fact,
yeah.
Ghosh had said a very nice thing. One of the things which he said was that uh, so Barry or someone said that so is Shiva like stone, in temperament because. But then Ghosh said no, not really because Shiva has content. he chooses not to engage too much with the outside world. He's he's okay with himself. Whereas Stone has a lot of insecurities, a lot of things happening inside him. But still whatever he has these phobias, so he's insecure. So which is why he behaves like as if he doesn't want the world to encroach upon him. So the two different things, which is why Stone
Yeah.
is so full of all kinds of issues.
And I thought he killed off Shiva just again for shock
Yeah,
value.
I know. Even I really, there was
Totally
no need.
unnecessary.
Yeah,
A reunion would have been much
Yeah,
more fitting
yeah,
and
yeah,
heartwarming.
yeah.
That is the
Uh,
unrealistic part. Finally, she marries the other twin and comes back to
Right.
their
yeah,
to
yeah,
Ethiopia. That
yeah.
was too contrived.
Unnecessary. Yeah, contrived.
Contrived.
Very contrived.
Yeah, I know. I mean, there's no reason to kill him.
yeah.
And especially
I was
after
like,
it all went off well, and suddenly one brain hemorrhage. I mean, it was,
yeah.
yeah, even I didn't understand why that happened. And
Yeah.
The sister Mary, I felt like slapping her actually. Seriously, Arey, you have got 9 months to tell this doctor something?
Oh,
What is
But
wrong with you?
maybe not Thomas, but at least the who's the
There are
matron?
matron is there, Hema's there, so many
Hema's there.
female
Hema's
doctors.
a
I know,
doctor, gynac, somebody. Yeah,
I
so
know.
true. Like, what would you achieve? Like, someday you're going to show and they're going to pop out someday.
Exactly.
I
And I mean,
know.
first of all, I don't know how can you do that to your children, to babies, and she's supposed to be a woman who's kind of whatever. I found that extremely silly. And then writing one random letter and throwing it somewhere who nobody sees for 30 years.
You, gosh. I mean,
Most
see
irritating.
this guy, this Abraham Verghese, has this, the desire for sensationalism to such an that he keeps sort of playing with his plot and his characters, and something massively shocking has to keep happening. I think in that, that's how the guy got killed. Poor thing. I mean, he didn't need to
Yeah.
die.
Yeah. But it
Because actually,
loses sense of reality in that
yeah.
process.
So I
Totally.
think it works in the Western world because they don't know Bollywood, right? We know. So we know where it is coming
Ah,
from. So we know it's all total Bollywood tamasha. Westerns don't know
yeah.
that. So they say, "Arey wah wah, kya chal raha hai?"
I was wondering. Now, Yashodhara, you said that you looked at lots of reviews, and by and large, people adored the book. Now, what could it be that made them adore it so much?
I
I mean, is it
really
the
don't
exotic?
understand.
Is
No,
it the exotica? Because,
no,
there's
it's
Ethiopia, another country that they don't know about, right?
no, nobody talked
Ethiopia.
about Ethiopia, Moni. Nobody talked about Ethiopia.
Yeah,
They all
nobody in the
said
reviews is talking about that.
about
Though
Ethiopia at
I
all.
felt that the one good
Yeah,
thing that
yeah,
came out of the book was
yeah,
I looked at it. I whatever information came
yeah,
from the book, I googled and I kind
yeah,
of
yeah.
educated, which I didn't know actually. A lot of things I didn't know about
Right.
Ethiopia, the food. One can't help but compare the similarities between South Indian food and
Yes.
all of those
Yeah,
things popped
yeah.
in my
Those
head.
things came out.
Uh, but none of the people are talking about that. They're
No.
talking about the brilliant, heart-touching.
The betrayal.
Uh,
The betrayal. And many of them, which I think, I don't know whether they read the book or not, many of them say that this is the surprise of who the father is will be revealed at the end. Bullshit, everybody knows who the
how?
father
But
is. What is there to reveal?
they
I didn't
named
understand.
Stone. How is that a
And
mystery?
it is there. How? I mean, I didn't understand at all. Why would anybody? It's a
Also, the whole
mystery.
thing of Thomas Stone not realizing that he slept with Sister Mary.
Ah, then they have that explanation that
Yeah.
sometimes he gets
Like he's
drunk
It's
blanked
drunk.
and for
out.
3 days, like he's just
Yeah, yeah,
nowhere and he doesn't know what he has done. He loses his memory. So
For
probably
a
that's
doctor to write
sensational.
that was a bit much.
bit much. No, but in the end, later on, Thomas Stone just remember that he had slept with her. So
Ultimately,
hmm,
ultimately.
ultimately, yeah, right at the end, right at the end. Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, but
which
the reviews they talk about the sense, how betrayal is talked about, how abandonment. They said every single, yeah, one of the, in fact, Verghese interview, he says when my editor or publisher or whoever read the book and he read the last line, he said, "Oh my God, this book is entirely about separation, and this is comes out so clearly in your last line." So when I read it again, I said, where, what does it come out? I couldn't make out that
They,
separation.
all these
I mean,
separations aren't even touching. It's
yes.
not, I mean, it doesn't arouse any emotional, feeling about the separation. We find it very crass. Running
Yeah,
away and abandonment. I mean, if somebody dies, that's not an abandonment as such.
exactly. But you feel
Yeah,
like the
I
No,
mean, a
but when
child can take it as a
child can take
exactly,
it
abandonment,
as an
but
abandonment.
it's
Yeah, but
child
stretched.
feels, let down.
Also,
Oh, when my
Thomas
mom had
Stone
to
like
die.
completely freezing
yeah,
when the kids are being born and like doing stupid things like putting that
yeah, that clamp in. Boom.
clamp and whatever, and too much gory details of
Too much
too
gory
many
detail.
things,
Yeah,
Yeah.
like blood and gore
Again,
and pus
again,
and
shock value.
yeah, I'm sure.
It's really
100%.
true.
hung up on shock value,
Yeah, yeah.
sensationalism, the melodramatic
You
part.
know, long time back, I mean, we'd read a book, I forget the author, called Red Tent. I don't know if you guys have heard of it. This is
Yeah,
about,
yeah.
olden times in Abraham, the starter of Christianity. That Abraham, his life, what it would have been like. So that is what is fictional thing. So in that, they have this very graphic things of how the women are having their monthly periods and what they do. And, they're supposed to have a sharp story, very horrible. So this kind of reminded me of that. So we couldn't read it. It was so, I mean, it was really very bad. So this entire process
Unnecessary.
of what was happening. And again, just because it's that Sister Mary who is on the operating table, but you are doctors who it shouldn't your muscle memory kick in.
No,
That's what should
everybody
happen,
low
right?
T
Is
freezes.
is just
Everybody.
frozen. Nobody knows what to do.
Matron
How is
is
that possible?
praying.
Yeah. I mean, somebody has to do something, and this Thomas is going to crazy chap.
The
And
twins were joined at the head,
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 wasn't it?
yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Joined at the head.
There's
Yeah, we
some
joined at the head.
tube which they cut off,
Yeah, which they
Hema
cut
cuts
off.
off.
Yeah. And another thing which
Another,
I found very odd was that, I mean, Marion does have anger against Thomas Stone. So he says, when I saw him, I couldn't breathe, etc. All that is fine. But I would have thought that, if he did really have something, either when people are away from the biological parents, let's say, for example, adopted kids, they either want to know desperately who their biological parents are, or they're not bothered
God,
because their adoptive parents are, you know, good enough for them. In this case, it was this and that both. He had fantastic parents. I mean, for me, I think Dr. Ghosh was the one character who I could find no flaws with.
Yeah,
He was
yeah.
absolutely fantastic. Such a great guy. So that was, I think Hema was very lucky. So that was, but when Marion goes to meet Stone, I think if he does have any hatred, it kind of dissipates very fast. Considering he's
Yeah,
harbored it for 25, 30 years, uh, I would have felt him to be more questioning or more demanding of answers. But Stone just talks and he
yeah,
listens, and it's all back to normal.
yeah. And
And
did anybody?
another thing is,
Hmm.
sorry, when Stone keeps calling them son, you know, Shiva, he comes the first time he's seeing Shiva, and he keeps saying son, son. If I was Shiva, I would have said, who the hell are you? I'm not your son. You know,
Yeah,
you can't just take over after 30 years.
yeah.
I find that very,
No, the other thing that bothered me was this Sige, the character who loses her daughter
yeah,
and all of that. Uh, Everybody's just ready to sleep with that 13 or 14-year-old.
yeah,
There's such a age difference. And I
yeah.
mean, I didn't understand what he was trying to say, that that is what teenage boys experience, or that it is what happens in Ethiopia, or what was
But
that? I
then,
mean,
if that is
the
true,
sister, that one sister
yeah, the nurse
within the
probationer.
yeah, nurse probationer
Yeah,
wants to,
yeah,
is offering herself to him. This one is grateful to him for the support he's given
yeah.
her, and she's like, okay, I'll sleep with you if you want to. I found that a little
And with that as the
no.
background, if everybody sleeps with everyone else, and this Shiva has already slept with 21 girls apparently, if that is the case, then why is there such a hoo-ha made of Janet sleeping with someone?
Yeah,
It should be something which seems to be happening, right? So is it
yeah,
because she thinks so? And again, if either now Rosina knows that she thinks she slept with Marion. Now, why is she not supposed to tell Heba? Or if she does tell, why is it Janet saying that it was Shiva and not Marion? Why all this? And why is it needs to be so secret that she gets herself mutilated for that? That though I could not imagine.
yeah.
And even what they said, what happened, I was getting goosebumps just reading it.
absolutely
Yeah.
It was horrible.
ghastly, ghastly. I mean, how far can a writer go in order to shock and therefore keep his reader interested? You know, Covenant of Water, I remember her praising the book tremendously. And before the session, she had said that it's 700 pages, but I couldn't put it down, you know. And she meant it. She
Yeah,
did
yeah.
mean it.
No,
Okay, should we
even
do a quick
Sheena meant it.
comparison of these two, by the way? I mean, neither of us is in love with either of them.
Yeah.
But which do you think was better?
I mean,
Yeah,
I
I
haven't
would
read
say
Covenant.
I
I haven't read.
definitely
was a little
the
bit
Covenant of Water.
Covenant was better. I think.
Definitely.
Yeah, yeah.
Even I've read it right through, and we had the discussion also, and I enjoyed it. At least the part up to the where that that man comes back from England or Scotland back to India.
Hmm.
After that, it becomes a little vague. But
Yes,
the
it does. It
first,
becomes a little hazy at that point. In fact, I had to
but
go back and reread. Yeah.
the first 300-400 pages were really good, describing the
But
backwaters of
again,
Kerala.
Uma,
Yeah.
again, with that book also, I felt that he needed a very strict editor, who would do what the writer sometimes can't do. He can't. I mean, like, the book is his baby. Which part of it the baby is to be chopped off? Obviously, he can't do it, but the editor can. So that hasn't been done. Pity. Now,
It-
that example of To Kill a Mockingbird, I
I
always
know.
feel that is tremendous. I mean, what it was, what the original draft was, which was published later as Go Set a Watchman, and what it became, entirely different and so much better. All the work of the editor.
you need a really
Okay,
good
uh,
editor, a discerning editor.
that's an editor's job. I think an editor's job is so hard, very hard. My God,
Yeah, because
imagine
you can't
deciding.
lose the essence of the
Hmm.
writing, but you have to chop off the
That's
extraneous
right.
bits.
Absolutely,
Very difficult.
absolutely. See, even with the Covenant of Water, one ended up feeling that at least 200 pages could have been
Could
chopped
have
off.
been lopped off. Yes.
Too long, too long. Initially, I felt what Sunita said, I didn't want to put it down. I only read at night, just before sleeping. And like I found myself up till 12 rather than 11. And I didn't want to put true, true, true. It was like that initially. But then you can't keep up that kind of thing for so long. And no. Okay.
Yeah.
Wispy, has said, um, Wispy, anything else you might like to say about the book? Like the angle of a doctor writing about a doctor and these children who grow up in this hospital, that medical ambience, that world of medicine, how well projected is it? There again, I think in this book again, very dramatic things happen all the time. There's not much sense of the routine, and I'm sure the routine ought to be more than the dramatic.
Dramatic part.
But okay, we get the slant on this writer. He is looking to shock. He's looking for the reader to be aghast. He's looking for the reader's eyes to pop out all the time.
So maybe that's one more reason why the Western audience likes it, because
Likes
they
it.
like disaster stories, right? Especially about Africa, India,
That's
and
what I
those
use
things.
the word exotica.
Yeah.
Is it the exotica? Is it, that poverty
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
lack of professionalism and lack of, um, amenities, technology,
Yeah, they all
all
like to do that
that.
because that is why in Mumbai you have these Dharavi tours which are so popular
Hmm.
with these Westerners who come and they peer into these things. Oh my God, 4 people stay here, 10 people stay here. How do they do it? Where do they bathe? Don't they have a bed of their own and things like that? Which is very such
Poverty
voyeuristic
tourism.
nonsense. But they like that, and that's why maybe one reason why they like this book because the kind of conditions, the kind of things they've talked about Ethiopia, what happens out there, that fistula surgery and all that, the
Oh
descriptions
God,
he has
yeah.
given of what that young girl actually is going through. I mean, I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
So maybe that's
I mean,
the thing.
the history of Ethiopia that we got, the Haile Selassie, and
Yeah, yeah.
that was
That was interesting.
informative,
I like the
That
food.
was interesting,
I
yeah.
like the food ka part. I like the way the music. I mean, when he's talking the music, I listened to it and I got what he was saying. So,
Yeah.
that part was fun. I did that. But I mean, like for example, when Hema is introduced, when they have that aeroplane ride or whatever she's doing,
Oh
Yes, yes.
how
God.
much it went on and on and on
I
and on and on. I mean, come on.
A bit too much. Too much. Yeah.
And then there too, she's kicking,
Yeah,
grabbing somebody's
balls.
balls, and he's got she can
Yeah.
figure out that he's got a problem by holding his balls. I'm like, oh God, like too
Again, see
much.
shock value.
Yeah, it's all shock value.
Shock, shock, shock.
Absolutely.
Okay. Viji, would you like to pitch in?
No, Mohini, I'm fine. I'm just listening in. Thank you.
Okay, fair enough. So, do we wind up then?
Yeah, I just got the book Funny in Farsi on Audible, Vispi. I'm going to be listening to it, so I'll be all ready.
Yeah,
For
and
next
on
Sunday.
Audible, Firoze has
Yeah,
narrated it,
has
so it's
narrated it. I saw that.
absolutely
So
brilliant.
actually,
Uh-huh.
my presentation is based on this interview of Firuzi,
Okay.
which actually one of our the person who actually introduced me to all of you and made that I joined this Sabah Siddiqui. Um, I, I'm afraid I don't see her when we meet on
Sabah Siddiqui, you mean?
Sabah.
Sabah, once upon a time was regular.
So Sabah was
She-
the one.
And when
Got
we met physically at Canada, she used to come. Well, I mean, I could ask the same question of so many people, who used to be regular, now are not. We had a little brainstorming session one day. What's happening? Why? But you can ask the question why, but there is no answer. Okay, now, so Vispi, your presentation is next Sunday.
That's right. Yeah.
We look forward to it.
Thank you.
And on the 2nd of March, I thought this is very interesting. The popularity and impact of Enid Blyton.
Mm.
I mean, we have all read Enid Blyton.
All
Yes.
read Enid
And we
Blyton.
have read all of Enid Blyton,
Yes.
haven't we?
I still do actually. It's my comfort read. Whenever I have an hour and I want to just have a good time, I have all my Enid Blytons supposedly in my daughter's room because they're actually, my daughter's books, but they're not actually, they're my books. But I keep them there.
So you actually pick them up and read them?
I actually do. Valerie is my favorite. I still do.
Oh,
It
how
takes
sweet.
half an hour, 40 minutes, but it's nice. I just like to. And it's
Yeah,
very good to impress my young niece. She was so thoroughly impressed with me. She was about 12 and she's talking about Mallory Tars and all. I could name the characters. I could this. She said, Alka Maushni, you know everything. I said, yes, I do.
so
Yeah,
sweet.
so it's
Yeah.
been nice.
I read Noddy, and then my father got posted to London, and so when there. Now my older brothers and sisters read all of Enid Blyton, but then in England I found that
Oh,
Enid
yeah.
Blyton was non-existent.
It's
I
not,
never saw a book by Enid
yeah,
Blyton
yeah,
in
yeah.
the 5 years that I was in England,
Uh,
and then when I came back,
yeah. She's banned abroad. When I went to New Zealand for the first time, 1980s. At that time, I mean, the first thing I do is find the public library. So I went to the library and I said, let me look at some books. I went to the children's section and no Enid Blyton. So I went to the library. I
Why?
said, where are the Enid Blytons? She's saying, oh, she's banned. I said, banned?
Why?
I was like, pretty sure. Because she's supposed to be racist.
Yeah.
She's supposed to be,
Yeah.
misogynist. She has this sexist
Hmm.
because all the boys go and do all these adventures while the girls go cooking. There's no black character anywhere, and there's class consciousness.
there's the
You have the
golly
policeman's
gollywog.
nephew.
But
So the point is,
these,
which is all true. But the thing is, that was that time.
Right.
You can't look at 1930s and 40s with the eyes of 2024. How can you
Absolutely,
do
but you
that?
see that happens. That happens. So
Mhm.
you were told that she was banned.
Yeah.
Our
Yeah.
librarian, where I used to go, I had never heard of. And she looked through a
Wow.
catalog. We don't have this all. That's
Wow.
it. So I came back to India when I was 11. And then I was past the age and I was reading other stuff. But one girl in my class, like you, Alka, loved her Enid Blyton so much. And one day we got talking. She said, "What, you haven't read them?" And I said, "No, I know about them, but no, I haven't." And then she started lending me them, one at a time. So I have read them all.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It
Yeah.
was the
Uh,
trend to gift these books to
Yeah,
on
of course.
birthdays and all to youngsters.
it's like Harry
But
Potter
when
became later the
yeah.
thing.
See, the
I
other
think
thing
it's
is,
good.
one thing which my niece was telling me, that when you have these older comedy shows, like the Everybody Loves Raymond, or things like that, which are say 20, 25 years back, something. There in the beginning they say outdated humor.
Mhm.
They mention
Yes,
it.
yes, yes.
Look, be prepared. This is
Mm.
what probably is not suited for this environment. That is what it was.
Yeah.
Similarly, they should allow Enid Blyton to be available, but say that, look, take it with a pinch of salt. But then on the other hand, I say, can children, you know, differentiate?
Differentiate.
So maybe they can't, which is why, uh, they
Yeah,
say,
that's
ki,
why they decide that they
yeah,
shouldn't
that
be
maybe children might
accessible.
get the idea it's okay to do this. So it's that this the boys only who will go out and the girls have to sit in the playhouse. So they don't want these ideas to. So in a way, I see that, but it's a very drastic measure to ban her.
Yeah.
What was bad.
I saw a
Okay.
movie called Mrs. yesterday.
Did you like it?
Well, as a movie, nothing great. But
Uh-huh.
the message is a good message to be sent out.
What is it about?
It's about this girl who gets married and she's a dancer. And the family doesn't believe that girls should work. And the attitude is, but we've got enough money. Why should you
Yeah.
need to? I'm a dancer. And then there's eek, how ghastly. Don't tell anyone that you're a dancer. But her videos are out there on social media and someone sees them. And then they're dancing and they say, "See, this is like your daughter-in-law does. This step is hers." And the family is very embarrassed. Finally, the girl leaves. So leaves the house, goes to her parents. Parents do not sympathize with her. They say, "No, no, I mean, just say sorry and don't do dancing. Don't ask to work." And she's so angry. She leaves. And last thing you see is her dancing on stage to a large audience. So she has made a life. What I liked was not only has she gone back to the activity that she loves, but she has made a life for herself outside marriage. Now, I find that very important.
Yeah.
There's no point if a girl leaves one guy and then falls into the arms of another guy.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
right,
Absolutely.
right.
Like Earth, long, long ago.
Yeah.
And she,
Fantastic work. What a
yeah,
wonderful movie that was.
fantastic. So she
Wonderful
makes
movie.
her life.
And so ahead of its time.
Yeah.
Well,
Which one are you
I
talking about now?
loved
Earth.
it.
Earth.
Yes, yes, yes.
Fantastic.
Okay. I'm
Yeah,
so
Smita
sorry
Patil
to.
and Shabana Azmi.
Yeah.
No?
Yeah. I'm going to leave. I'm
Yes,
going
I think
on
we may as
to a
well.
play.
Yashodhara.
So,
Yashodhara.
okay,
Yeah.
we are all leaving?
No,
Yes. Yes.
I think so. I think we've completed, haven't we?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good.
So, Alka,
Thanks.
thank you so much for
And
an
thanks for a fantastic discussion.
unbelievably compact
See,
presentation.
that is the reason. So
Yeah,
you have so much time to discuss.
Yeah.
What's the point
have
of
all
me
this,
talking all the time?
this comfortable discussion. Yeah.
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 Thank you so much. Thank you,
Thank you,
everybody,
Mohini.
for
Thank
being
you,
here.
Alka.
Bye-bye.
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
Thank you.
guys.
You're
everyone.
so
Go
Alka. I
online.
missed the
Bye.
first part of it, but I caught up
Enjoyed
at
the
the
rest
Thanks.
end,
of it.
and the
Very.
discussion helped.
Right.
Okay.
And
See you
Uma,
guys.
I just want to tell you, Uma, I just want to say, I was trying to get a copy of Vanity Fair. It came to me now, all right, yesterday.
Okay.
But I've started reading it. And
Okay.
there was aspect, that beginning of the puppeteer and all. I hadn't remembered that. I remember the story. I didn't remember the framework. Anyway, so
Anyway, enjoy it.
okay.
It's nice.
Yes.
Thank you all.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
somebody
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
recording.
Bye.
Thank
Bye.
Bye bye
you.
everyone.
Bye.
See
Thank
you
you.
next Sunday.